Well, I think we can go ahead and get started since I know a few people need to hop off a little early, and people can get up to speed as they continue to filter in. And I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. So we are going to try and fit this in within an hour. We are recording it too if you need to hop off and you're interested in coming back and watching more. So just wanted to make sure that everyone was okay with the recording piece of it. I think we will end up posting it on our TPA Moves engagement website too. So we're just keeping it open to the public as well. So we'll just go ahead and kick things off. So again, everyone, I'm Alana Brazier. I think everyone at this point probably knows me, Vision Zero coordinator within the mobility department, helping facilitate this effort along with Wendy Wilbur from Kittleson and Associates, our trusty consultant who is helping us keep on track and pulling everything together and making it look really nice too. So just to refresh everyone's memory on where we are with everything, this is the second full task force meeting that we've had as we have been developing our action plan together. And the first one was held back at the end of February. After that, we broke out into 3 committees, and then through those several meetings, we developed strategies. So we're bringing the full Vision Zero Task Force back together again to present our first draft of the Vision Zero Action Plan, to get your feedback, comments, and kind of start that dialogue as we go through some updates to it, just kind of this vetting period before we make it finalized and share it more openly with the public. So with that, I'll get into our presentation. So just a quick overview of what we'll get into with this presentation and meeting today. We'll do a quick reminder and refresher of our Vision Zero effort and the specific approach we're taking in Tampa, an overview of what we heard from all those committee meetings that happened over the past 6 months and how that then informed what we're presenting today in our draft action plan. We've organized our action plan around the Safe Systems approach, which is the adopted approach by FHWA, Federal Highway Administration, and the Vision Zero Network. So we're keeping in line with how they recommend organizing our efforts, and then let you know what's coming up next. So I will hand it over to Wendy at this point to take the lead on this Vision Zero refresher.
Thanks, Alana, and thanks for having us back. I'm going to go kind of quickly because I think everybody remembers, but it's always a good reminder of why we're sitting in the room together. So really, Vision Zero at its base is to eliminate all roadway fatalities, and severe injuries on our roads while increasing safe and healthy, equitable access for all modes. This approach has been adopted by other cities across the United States and the world, and it brings a public health and equity lens for how we plan for, prioritize, and implement projects on our roads. So why Vision Zero in Tampa? On average in Tampa, between 2014 to 2018, 44 people were killed. That's about 4 per month. And 289 suffered life debilitating injuries. That's about 24 people per month. That doesn't account for their family members, their friends, their coworkers, the emergency responders, and all the other lives that are impacted. The data indicates this trend is actually moving in the wrong direction, especially for those walking and driving and riding their bike. Especially for those walking and riding their bikes. There is work to be done to get everyone where they need to be safely. So the city of Tampa has come a long ways. Next slide, Alana. I seem to have a lag on my end. Sorry about that. So the previous slide, it's important to celebrate the successes and the progress, like the city speed limit reduction program, complete streets projects, improved street lighting, and improved pedestrian and bicycle facilities. The city's done a lot of work, and so have their planning partners. There have also been successful enforcement efforts, communication efforts, and education efforts, but we can do more. So Vision Zero is really a new approach. It's a cultural shift in how we think. In the past, crashes were viewed as a fact of life. If you want to be on our roads, there was a certain acceptance that there could be a fatal or severe crash. There was also focus on individual behaviors being the cause. With Vision Zero, we're reframing this approach because frankly, the old approach hasn't worked. So Vision Zero accepts that we're all human and we all make mistakes, as evidenced by me stuttering over several words as I started this presentation. But mistakes shouldn't cost us our lives, no matter who we are or how we travel. Through better design and multidisciplinary collaboration, we can prevent deaths and fatal injuries on our roadways. So how do we get there? I have a lag, Alana, so I'm not sure. Are we on slide 8?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So others have gone before us. We've got a lot of lessons learned from other cities, so we know how we can actually do better and save lives. This action plan follows best practices and lessons learned from other cities. It uses data to identify the causes, and it identifies a range of proven solutions and actions. The actions identified in this plan encompass a combination of engineering solutions, policy changes, enforcement, and educational outreach, all through that very important lens of equity. The plan also identifies performance metrics to measure progress. This is important to answer the question, are we moving the needle in the right direction with our actions? And if not, how can we adjust and do a better job? And most importantly, the plan is based on a safe systems approach. So the safe system approach requires that all parts of the roadway system are strengthened so that if one part fails, people are still protected. This goes back to remembering that we're all human and we'll all make that occasional mistake when we're on the roadway. It shouldn't cost us our lives. So redundancy is critical, which is why with the safe systems approach, we look at streets, speeds, vehicles, behaviors, and data-driven decisions. It's not a new concept. It's actually existed for more than 30 years in countries across the globe. Each of the early adopters of this safe systems approach has seen a marked decrease in traffic fatalities across the roadway systems. So for example, from 1994 to 2015, Sweden, the Netherlands, and Australia and New Zealand have each seen a 50% reduction in fatalities just by strengthening all parts of the system. So Alana is going to share how the task force helped shape the actions that are the foundation of our safe systems approach.
All right. Thank you, Wendy. And just to give you guys a reminder of our Vision Zero task force setup. So we have Mayor Castor, who's leading this charge. She committed again back to 2019 Vision Zero as she took over as mayor. We split our Vision Zero task force up into these 3 committees: City Policy and Program, chaired by Chief of Staff John Bennett, which was charged with reviewing city policies, programs, and processes to support achieving Vision Zero. We also had our Crash Analysis and Countermeasures Committee, led by our Mobility Department Director, Vic Bede. Hi, Vic, I see you on here now. And that group was really bringing our engineering and enforcement sides together to talk about how we can create safer streets that encourage safer speeds and safer behaviors. And then our third committee was our Equity and Engagement Committee, chaired by our Neighborhood and Community Affairs Administrator, Osea Wynn. And that charge, hi Osea, that committee was charged with strategies for engaging the public, promoting awareness, and making sure we're infusing equity and inclusion throughout this plan and in our Vision Zero effort as a whole. And we've had a whirlwind past 6 months of meetings with you all, and then spent a couple months kind of looking through all the comments, digesting everything we heard, and organizing it into our action plan. So we've had a total of 8 meetings, including today, over the past 6 months. And we're excited to share this first draft of our action plan with you all, with the intent of, over the course of September, having smaller group conversations after this meeting with some of our implementation partners, making sure we're talking to the people that we need to help us to implement this action plan, because it's not just a mobility department initiative, it's a citywide effort. So we're so grateful for all of you here today and your participation in this, because we really do need your help in getting this done. And so by mid to early to mid-October, we plan to have our Vision Zero action plan finalized and really going full throttle into implementation of it. So just to give you guys a quick overview and recap of what we heard from each of the committees over the course of the past few months, I'm going to go through each committee, just remind you what they were kind of focused on, who was involved, and then the high level points that we heard from each of those committees. So again, the Policy and Program Committee focused on really creating a culture that prioritizes road safety, ways we can update our codes and policies and standards to support this effort, programs we might want to consider, and then ways we can continue to provide leadership and support and accountability to implementing this plan. So we had, besides Chief of Staff leading this committee, we also had Jean Duncan, our Infrastructure Mobility Administrator, helping lead that committee. We had our Government Affairs and Strategic Initiatives, Marketing and Communications, Parks and Rec, Development and Growth Management, as well as City Planning, Sustainability and Resilience, Economic Opportunity, and our legal department involved in that. So a really multifaceted look and view at how we infuse Vision Zero into not just mobility efforts, but other citywide efforts and policies. So the top ideas that this committee shared and came up with was one, to integrate Vision Zero elements into our development review and development transportation mitigation assessments and fees. So making sure all this new development that's occurring is also occurring with a multimodal and Vision Zero focus, not just continuing to accommodate vehicles, but also considering how we can create more transit supportive and pedestrian friendly development. We also talked about identifying innovative funding strategies so we can continue to augment and expand the city's capabilities for implementing this program and multimodal and safety investments. We discussed developing a legislative platform and ways that we can work with and inform our legislators of our Vision Zero efforts so that they're aware of where the city of Tampa stands. And then supporting developing a broader network of active transportation options and safe routes programs, not just safe routes to schools, but safe routes to parks and to jobs and to transit. So we're creating that well-connected network. And then lastly, integrating Vision Zero with our sustainability and resilience efforts, because the two are so intertwined and have similar goals. Our second committee, the Crash and Countermeasures Committee, again, was focused on kind of bringing the engineering and enforcement sides together in this discussion to systemically improve existing street network design, create those self-enforcing streets that calm traffic, reduce hazards, use a data-driven process to how we identify projects and prioritize and implement them, and then targeting our enforcement where it's needed the most. So we had a broad representation of city involvement from both TPD, Tampa Fire Rescue as well. Our mobility department, we had representation from all 5 of our divisions, and then as well as Parks and Recreation, our community partnerships and legal department. And then we also had some agency partners involved, including the Hillsborough TPO, FDOT, Hillsborough County, HART, our transit agency, and our school district. And this committee discussed more rapid deployment of engineering and safety treatments to address concerns, formalizing policies and programs to support speed management and traffic calming, more regular coordination amongst the mobility department and our first responders, the Tampa Police Department and Tampa Fire Rescue, and then developing that well-connected multimodal transportation system. And then last committee, the Equity and Engagement Committee, again, focused on bringing in equity and inclusion into this discussion in our efforts, communicating with the public, and just building up that educational and awareness side of things. So we had representation from our neighborhood engagement, marketing and communications, arts and cultural affairs, our ADA coordinator, our CRAs, customer experience, and our legal department. We also had some agency partners involved, our TPO again, Bike Walk Tampa Bay, FDOT, the school district, and Florida Department of Health, Hillsborough County chapter. And then our nonprofit sector too, we had NAACP, AARP, the Tampa Downtown Partnership, and West Shore Alliance all involved in this committee. And with this group, the discussion centered on prioritizing an equitable approach to addressing safety issues and proactively reaching out and working with our communities, the ones we know are especially in greatest need, because we know that those are also the ones that are less likely to be as engaged and the ones sending us their requests for transportation improvements or sending us their complaints. So how do we more equitably reach out to those communities? Developing a strategic marketing campaign, focusing on the crash data and how we can reach certain populations and deliver more targeted messages. We also discussed determining new ways of engaging with the community to share information and make sure we're getting information out to all of our neighborhoods and gathering those safety concerns. Bringing youth into this and really empowering our youth to be safety ambassadors. So we're continuing to build a legacy of Vision Zero throughout the city of Tampa. And then the last piece, hosting more community events just to make things fun and engage the public and get people outside, walking, biking, doing things together. So if you were able to attend the May Open Streets event on Bayshore, I think that was a great precursor to some of the things we would like to do. It was a really fun, engaging event. All right, so just to take a pause, I know there's some people who have to hop off, so for Chief Dugan's retirement. So before they do, I just want to say we have the draft action plan that we sent out attached to this calendar invite. We'll also, by early next week, be sending out the full report. So what was sent out was just kind of the Word document action tables that go at the end of the larger, more graphically rich, pretty version of the full plan that has some narrative. So we'll be sending that out early next week. Again, through the end of September, we're looking to have feedback, comments, questions, anything that you would like to clarify, particularly, your role in this Vision Zero action plan and helping us implement it. And again, I'll be following up on scheduling some of these smaller group meetings with some of our key implementation partners to dig into that a little further, because for today's meeting, we're just going to kind of give you the high level overview, not dig too deep into it, but we want to give you that first quick glance at it and then give you some time to dig in a little further and digest what we're putting forward in here. So we took all of those ideas and thoughts that we heard from our committee meetings and organized them under our safe systems elements. So safer streets, safer speeds, safer people, safer vehicles, safety data and post-crash care, and then our implementation success. And then under each of these safe systems elements, we have some overarching strategies and then more specific actions that are really specific, measurable, and actionable. So just to kind of give you the overview of how everything is organized before we get into the presentation. All right, so just jumping right in now, we have our Safer Streets element. So the objective of this is designing those self-enforcing streets that guide appropriate road user behavior and mitigate for inevitable mistakes. So we have a great example here, Hyde Park Avenue, the before picture on the left where it was really unclear where people should even be traveling, and our after picture where it's much more clear where the vehicles should be traveling, where bicyclists should be, where the cars should be parking, and then where people should be walking. So just more of these examples. And this was also a partnership with FDOT. So we just want to see more of these types of projects. We have 4 strategies under this safe system. So creating safer streets through enhanced planning, design, and operations, expanding the city's walk-bike network, prioritizing vulnerable users, and then lastly, changing codes, policies, and legislation to support Vision Zero. All right, so that first strategy, creating safer streets through enhanced planning, design, and operations, really gets into that piece that we heard from our Crash and Countermeasures Committee, where we needed to start prioritizing investments on our high injury network, which is where we know our fatal and severe crashes are happening most prevalently. So we have identified that network, both city-owned roads and state and county-owned roads. So that's giving us the start of where we can start to focus our efforts on. We also are in the process of developing a quick build program. So that helps us more rapidly deploy those safety treatments. And we're challenging ourselves to do this in a way that achieves the greatest safety benefit for the lowest cost. Because again, we need to just stretch our dollars as far as we possibly can. We've also included implementing our citywide mobility plan. So that's the longer term vision that's paired with this Vision Zero action plan effort, and how we prioritize our greater needs throughout the city. Integrating systemic safety practices, and then focusing on some of our traffic signal operations as well. That's the quick overview of that strategy. The second strategy, expanding the city's walk-bike network. So this is where we put that creating the Safe Routes to Places program, identifying that network of low-stress streets, multimodal facilities, ways that we can connect people to the places that they're trying to go. Making it easier for people to get around and more comfortable. We know in Florida we need more shade, so how can we add those elements in here? And then when people get to the end of their bike ride, having bike racks for them to easily lock their bikes to. Communicating with the public about our multimodal network, and then deploying a multimodal wayfinding program so people are able to easily navigate this system. This third strategy is prioritizing vulnerable road users. So those are, again, those people walking, biking, that Wendy described earlier. And some of the actions we've identified under that have to do with the ways that we are maintaining our traffic when we have road closures or construction underway, conducting some road safety audits on our high injury network corridors, developing a multimodal street lighting program, and then a safe routes to transit programs, making sure people who are wanting to use transit are able to safely and easily get there to their stop, to and from their stops. And then the last strategy under the safer streets element is changing these codes and policies and legislation to support Vision Zero. So we talked about conducting a review of the land development code and code of ordinances for ways that we can infuse Vision Zero and strengthen that approach, updating our comp plan, a development review checklist, updating some other codes and manuals that we know are a little outdated or probably needs another look through a Vision Zero lens. Identifying some multimodal performance targets. So how many people are walking or biking or taking transit to work right now? Can we assess that and understand that baseline so then we're able to track over time? Is this growing? Are more and more people taking transit? Are we building the network that people want to use so we're able to track and see how well we're achieving our goals? And then we also discussed some of the legislative pieces. So hosting an annual legislative roundtable, again, making sure our state legislators are informed of our Vision Zero efforts and understand our side of things and our perspective. And then championing piloting an automated speed enforcement camera legislation in Florida. It's a little aspirational, but we're going bold with this action plan. So I'll pause there with this first Safer Streets element and see if there's anything that anyone had questions on at this point in time. I know that was kind of a lot to go over, but again, it's just kind of trying to give you the high level overview at this time before you're able to dig in and read through the action plan. I see Gina has her hand up.
Wow, this is great. Really, really great actions listed. I mean, definitely went even further than the one, the county's plan that we put together. I really love this. And measurable, I can see how successful this can be moving forward. And I'm behind you with the automated speed enforcement, especially when I retire. I can really be irritating and push that as a citizen. The only thing, and I know this sounds silly and maybe it's semantics, but why safer streets and not just safe streets? Because and I know this matters to some people a lot. Like Christina Costa, for one, has always pointed that out to me, that we want safe streets, not just safer than what we have now. That's one thing. And the other thing, and please, seems silly, but I loved the transformation of Hyde Park, but I immediately thought this was in a rich area. Like we have examples in the city of like Himes or 38th Street or 34th or whatever, maybe not quite as designed exactly as beautifully, but my initial thing was, oh gosh, this is just in the, wealthy community. That was just for the presentation purpose. So that was it. This is great stuff. Thank you.
Thanks, Gina. Yes, good point on the second piece. That was just a quick one that I was able to pull, and I think just visually demonstrated what this Safer Streets element is trying to focus on. But you're spot on, and the equity perspective and making sure that we're addressing needs all over the city. And the first piece, I'll let Wendy take that one.
We're going to do that, Alana, because I made Alana change it to safer. And the reason for that is not every street is not safe, and you're looking for continuous improvement. And so there are a lot of great safety improvements that have been done. There's a lot of streets that are already achieving Vision Zero where they have no fatalities. So it's that spirit of continuous improvement.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Anything to bring up for discussion right now? Okay, we'll go on to the next safe system element. So Wendy's going to take this one over for me, safer speeds.
All right, so safer speeds, this is basic physics, keeping the impacts on the human body at tolerable, survivable levels. So this really builds on that safer streets and self-enforcing roads. When our roads are self-explaining, they're planned and designed to encourage drivers to select operating speeds consistent with the posted speed limit. I think you've all probably found yourselves at a point where you look down at your speedometer and you're driving much faster than the posted speed limit. And it's not intentional, it's because that road is big and wide. And I just have someone walk into my apartment. Can I hit pause? I am so sorry.
Yep.
just a moment.
I'll take it over for Wendy. So I think one of the key points with this element is we're not just talking about addressing speeding where people are driving over the posted speed, which is definitely a big focus of this effort, but we're also trying to address speed management. So there are a lot of roads that we have where we know the posted and designed speed is much higher than it needs to be, especially given the surrounding land use context. So we want to systematically identify those corridors and lower posted speeds, implement designs that help to lower the posted speed.
And I am back, Alana. I am so sorry.
That's okay.
Welcome to the world of Teams, right?
Yeah.
So before we jump in there, I did want to just quickly talk about, do speed management techniques work? So other cities have implemented similar actions that we're proposing in this plan that revolve around updating codes and policies, designing self-enforcing roads, and implementing speed management techniques. So in Denver alone, they collected and analyzed data, and they made strategic changes along their high injury network, including upgrading pedestrian countdown signals, adding leading pedestrian intervals, slowing speeds. And then they compared their data. This is that important piece of actually monitoring. And this was done between 2015 and 2017. And they saw a 47% reduction in crashes that killed or seriously injured someone. So this works. So the strategies we have here is we're going to prevent deadly and life-altering crashes by managing those vehicle speeds. So update codes and manuals and guidance. There's already been a lot of work done here. Thoughtfully reduce speeds and implement roadway designs to match those posted speeds. And then work with the Tampa Police Department to inform and implement speed reduction efforts. And here's where I'm going to say, when we have self-enforcing roads that tell us to drive the correct speed limit, then our enforcement officers can be doing other things as well because they don't have to get out there and enforce. So all three of these really help each other and work together. So update codes, manuals, and guidance to support safer speeds. So develop street design guidelines and countermeasures. So really kind of focusing on that high injury network where we know where crashes are and putting in good countermeasures to protect all of our traffic users, especially vulnerable users. Update the city's transportation technical memo. Create a neighborhood traffic calming toolbox. What's appropriate? Where does it work? Where is it going to be most effective? And Alana, I think it's on your end. We're still having a little, at least I'm having a little bit of trouble on my end. The screen kind of blacks out. So this is not my day, is it?
We could have Riva share, or Vic
I
or
think
Brandy.
Riva
Are
was
you seeing?
Riva was having the same issue. I don't know if anyone else is.
So I
I
can
would
see the
say
screen,
it-
but it was kind of blurring earlier.
Yeah, oh, it's back. It's back.
Okay.
All right. So establish a speed management peer exchange and learn from what other communities are doing within Florida and outside of Florida to really be effective and really get those investments honed down. And a part of this is to decouple speed zones from that 85 percentile. FDOT's already looking at that, FHWA is, there's a lot of progress here, but really designing for that context and giving the designers the freedom to do that. And then thoughtfully reduce speeds and implement roadways designs to match those posted speeds. I kind of covered a lot of this already, but also help the community understand, proactively communicate why you're making these changes, why it's important. Continue to advocate for lower speed limits on all facilities, and then create an implementation plan for speed management, again, focusing on that high injury network and where can you strategically lower speed limits, where do design changes need to be made. And next slide, work with Tampa Police Department to inform and implement speed reduction efforts. Again, focus on that high injury corridor. That's where we want to slow people down. And then collect speed data. And again, where can we change the roadways to have a more self-enforcing roadway? So really this collaborative effort, it's got to be education, engineering, and enforcement to manage speed. So with that, any questions on this particular one?
This is Gina again. I don't have a question, but I think the TPO could probably be an implementing partner in some of the study, like the study of the peer exchange. I mean, I would love to do that. So I'm volunteering, but
I'll sign you up.
We're happy to sign up more people. I'm sure Alana will be fine with that.
You listed county, and I guess we could kind of fit in that part anyway.
I think Abigail has a question.
Yeah, hi everybody. So I was thinking about how you guys are looking at Vision Zero is about focusing in on severe injury and fatality crashes. So, what do you guys, is your focus for like other areas going to emphasize only fatal and severe? For example, like we're updating safety bulletins, we're updating procedures, and there's been, discussion, should we only focus on serious and fatal injuries? There's this like equity component about bicycle and pedestrian crashes being underreported for various reasons. And so when you look at overall crashes, it would seem the peds and the bikes are at a disadvantage because, less severe crashes that don't involve property damage when bicycles and peds are involved don't get reported. But when you look at serious and fatal crashes, then that's when the ped and the bike crashes show up. So it seems like a more equitable approach, but I was wondering, what is the city doing? Are you still continuing to look at less severe crashes when doing other programs and projects and analyses?
I'll start answering that, and then I'll turn it over to the high injury network. When we mapped that, it is actually a process where we looked at all crashes. So we weighted them. A fatal crash got weighted higher and then a severe crash, but we also factored in all crashes so that we are looking at the locations that have the highest crash rates and the most fatal and severe injuries. So that is captured in our high injury network. So with that, lessons learned on the high injury network too can be applied to all other roadways. So if you start to see a typical intersection that has a high crash rate, can solutions and countermeasures be applied to all other intersections? So it's a starting point that starts to spread out through the community.
Yeah, that just really well said, Wendy, and I don't really have much more to add to that because it kind of encapsulated our approach really well. It's a systemic approach that we want to take, but from our perspective, we have to prioritize where we start, and we know that starting on the high injury network is where we really need to.
All right, thank you for that.
Any other questions, comments on this section? All right, we'll jump into the Safer People section. So this one is focused on empowering Tampanians to spread Vision Zero messaging, take community action, and promote a culture of safe mobility. So with this one, we have 4 strategies. One is empowering our Tampa residents to be Vision Zero stewards. The second is creating a culture of safety and understanding of Vision Zero throughout the City of Tampa organization. Third is involving the community in fun, inspiring events. And fourth is empowering our youth to be Vision Zero ambassadors. So jumping into this first strategy area, empowering our Tampa residents to be Vision Zero stewards, we want to produce some annual Vision Zero public education campaigns, focusing on awareness and residents' role they have in our Vision Zero safety efforts, looking into different ways that we can communicate that, both through our social media, but also working with partners, potentially some of our professional sports teams, which have been recently interested in Vision Zero. So building off of that, just spreading awareness through a multifaceted approach. We've also talked about incorporating Vision Zero into the Mayor's Neighborhood University, which is a class that happens annually with Tampa residents who apply and participate in this class. We want to partner with USF Center for Urban Transportation Research to promote their Shifting Narratives class is actually what the class is called, but it's focused on how we can speak and educate media on how to effectively communicate Vision Zero, moving away from victim blaming and using the correct terminology, such as crash, not accident. And then also working with the Center for Urban Transportation Research to promote the newly created Citizens Transportation Academy class. We're in the process of developing this right now and should be starting this fall. So this is something that city residents can participate in. Right now, we're limiting it to 25 people, but it will hopefully grow over the years and just gives people an overview and understanding of transportation in the city so they can understand how Vision Zero filters into this overall way we get around our city. The second strategy, creating a culture of safety and understanding throughout the City of Tampa organization. We have identified including Vision Zero information in our defensive driver training class, which is required for all new employees and every 3 years for city employees. So it's a great way to just get the messaging out. Having some internal city staff communications and education plan, just kind of disseminating some promotional materials just to kind of start to spread the word about what Vision Zero is and how our staff fit into it. Some internal mobility department trainings about our Vision Zero action plan and the safe systems approach. And then looking into ways we can incentivize city staff to walk, bike, and take transit. So we have some incentives already, but how can we beef that up a little bit more? And then third, involving the community in fun and inspiring events. We want to continue to build on this open streets concept where streets are temporarily closed to vehicle traffic and opened up to the community to walk, bike, have fun events, and just spreading that across the city so it's an equitable approach to how we implement this program. We've also been continuing to implement our Paint Saves Lives program, building off of what the TPO started years ago, doing some tactical urbanism projects and placemaking projects. We just partnered with the Tampa Downtown Partnership on one at K and Franklin Street. So if you haven't checked that out, you should go take a look at it. It's some really cool bulb outs using paint and just really neat example of what we want to do more of. And then we've also talked about purchasing a mobile pop-up trailer with equipment to support these tactical urbanism projects and also using it as a way to promote Vision Zero. And then fourth, the last strategy under this Safer People area, empowering our youth. So continuing to implement our Crosswalks to Classrooms program, where we have painted crosswalks at schools, developing a Vision Zero focused after school and or week-long summer camp or class focused on Vision Zero. I know the TPO has kind of initiated something like that, so maybe partnering with them on this. Working with the Mayor's Youth Corps on an annual transportation safety project. We have a great group of young vivacious youth that each year they're high school students who are chosen to be on this youth corps, and they have a lot of energy, and so continuing to work with them and bring them into this Vision Zero effort. Partnering with schools and Walk Bike Tampa and Sidewalk Stompers to encourage greater participation in walking and biking to school, And then organizing city staff who are interested in serving as sidewalk stompers, ambassadors, and helping that organization continue to spread the walking and biking to school joy that they have been doing. So I'll pause there and see if there's any comments on this Safer People section. Vic?
Yeah, thanks, Alana. Just wanted to highlight, let's also, and I'm sure we've thought about it, but consider the senior community and how Vision Zero impacts aging in place. That's particularly important to our context in Florida. And I think it's an important constituency that we sometimes don't hear from. So whatever we can do, reaching out to seniors and also kind of considering their specific needs as part of the overall approach towards the Safer People approach here.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, it's infused within this, but not specifically called out more. So I think we can call that out more. I see, let's see, I'm not sure who raised their hand first.
It was Emily and Gina.
Emily did, yeah. Are you on here, Emily? Oh, there you are.
I just wanted to say thank you for including sidewalk stompers in this plan, and we are very excited to work with city staff as ambassadors.
Cool, thank you. Right, and Gina?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of just reiterate how great this is, and same what Emily had said. I think the question I was asked most commonly when we first did this, our plan was, what can I do as a person, as a resident to get involved? So I think that this section outlines or at least points out some things that people can really feel like they're engaged in the process. This is two things that I thought of that I'm not sure it should be in here, and I think maybe it'll just inherently happen, but there's some great things that we can do here, but one of the suggestions that I had received in the past was, well, how do we get our residents to demand better design? It's almost like asking them to complain to you more, but how do we educate them to know that they need to ask and make sure that they're seeing, that both design and acceptance of law enforcement? I know we stopped talking about it in our speed management action plan. We used that more, we focused it more on education because of the concerns about equity or profiling or whatever those issues are, but they are an important piece of this Vision Zero. And I don't know, I guess they're just maybe creating better relationships or something, but it's not really measurable. How do you measure that? And just a thought. I'm just kind of rambling a little bit, but I know that beyond, getting involved in the paintings, which is so much fun, and it really does matter. And some of these other things, like some real policy changing kind of support from the citizens.
So I'll take a stab at that, Gina, because that is a challenge, generally speaking, with community engagement as well. How do you get people to ask for better design and safer design? And oftentimes when projects come up or initiatives come up, the conversation becomes about traffic and how do you dispel that? And I think there are a couple of things that we have done, with the mobility plan. Again, it's something we should have done a long time ago, but we've started now, and that is listen first and kind of reach out to the community even before we start thinking about a project of, what is it that the community wants? And this This is captured in the long-term mobility plan as well, but also as part of every project, so that we're not out there, sharing what we're doing as much as we're out there first asking what should we do? What are the needs of the community? And I think when we ask that question, we might get slightly different answers than reactions to something we put in front of the community. So I don't know if that helps, but that is one thing. And then the other was kind of, Abigail's point of beyond the focus on the high injury network, what happens elsewhere with design, and really what we do with the high injury network as a starting priority for Vision Zero automatically informs how we address other projects or other facilities as well. So I don't know if that addresses, where you're trying to get at, but I kind of understand what we're.
I think Matt Pleasant had his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add the school district's kind of voice to what you're talking about here, and just say that, I'm excited to see this, and I think there's so much to explore, and you will get, I think, so much more kind of bang for your buck for these projects when you involve schools. I think that Sidewalk Stompers is awesome. Obviously, I think we have so much more we could do to kind of spread that across the city, particularly neighborhoods like East Tampa, Ybor, West Tampa. I think that making those kids ambassadors for this program and getting them to kind of think about their community in a different way, is really important. So I'm excited to see where this goes.
Thanks, Matt. All right, we'll jump on to the next section, safer vehicles. And I think Wendy's taking this one over.
All right, so safer vehicles is a little bit about public transit and a little bit about safer fleets and a little bit about emerging technology. So bottom line is making relatively simple, inexpensive technology policy and training improvements for city fleets and drivers can be quick and easy wins for cities, especially those in the early stages of Vision Zero. And additionally, studies show cities can cut their traffic fatality rates 10 to 40% by prioritizing transit, bicycle, pedestrian options like micromobility in combination with other strategies that reduce driving. So the goal with transit and some of these emerging techs is the more cars you keep off the road and provide more options to get around, then the safer the roads become. And micromobility plays an important role in closing that first and last mile gap. So when we look at what we're doing for safer vehicles, our strategies are to manage a safe fleet of vehicle drivers, leverage innovations in micromobility and mobility. So the thoughts here with safer drivers: add "How's My Driving" stickers to city fleets, use them as billboards to promote Vision Zero, review reports to see if there's any reoccurring issues associated with crashes in city vehicles. For micromobility and mobility, share the availability of micromobility vehicles. There are some equity concerns with here that other cities are dealing with, but those can easily be overcome. But that makes that kind of first last mile connection, makes transit more appealing to people. And then continue to monitor and implement curb management. This is a rapidly changing area, especially as we get more into e-commerce and competition for the curbs. So this is kind of an emerging field for all cities, and making sure that that curb stays very safe for everyone. Expand and elevate the role of public transit in creating a safer transportation system. So partner with HART to support walking and biking to bus stops. Coordinate and innovative transit projects that enhance that transit network. Again, the more we get people off the roads, the more people walking, biking, and taking the bus, the safer it becomes. And then collaborate on implementing safe transit infrastructure and operations. that really encourage safe crossing compliance and provide for a really comfortable experience. So all of this really kind of goes back to those safer streets and safer speeds as well. And then Alana, I guess we'll take questions, and then Alana, you'll cover safety data and post-care crash.
Yeah, so any questions, comments, feedback on this section?
This is Ginger. I just put a comment in there that we need to ensure that our transit is working for people of all mobilities.
Thanks, Ginger.
That's Alana, if I may, real quick, kind of plug our micromobility program. But
Yeah,
that's a good point, Ginger. And even with our micromobility program that we recently approved, we're going to go out citywide with this program. And really, the first part of the program are sit-down scooters, e-bikes, and adaptive vehicles. So they're not the stand-up scooters that are popular, in the touristy areas or the downtown areas. These are vehicles for different abilities. And at least the sit-down scooters, we've had 2 experiences where they're a big success. One was in the Hannah Avenue area as part of our municipal civic center that the city is building there. We'd done a walking tour, and we'd had the sit-down scooters, and just about half, if not more, of the people took up the sit-down scooter option and loved it. And the other is more personal, but my mother-in-law tried one in St. Pete, and she's had 2 knee surgeries. And if she's okay with riding a sit-down scooter, I feel pretty hopeful. So
pass the test. Right. Any other comments or feedback on this section? Okay, we can move on to the second to last. So these last few sections go pretty quick. The first few had a lot in them. So thanks for sticking around. But the safety data and post-crash care is really focused on how we are using our quality data, the latest analytical tools to know the full picture of what's going on the roadway and help us to prioritize our actions and track our progress with implementing Vision Zero. And this also ties into coordinating our efforts with our first responders, so TPD, Tampa Fire Rescue, and ensuring that we're really rapidly responding to severe crashes and addressing areas where we know safety concerns are popping up. So under this section, we have 2 strategies. One, first is collaborating with our first responders. With this one, we discussed forming a public safety working group that would include people from mobility, TPD officers, and Tampa Fire Rescue who would meet maybe monthly or every other month, but just regroup after we've had some crashes, review what the crash reports are saying, discuss some next steps and engineering treatments we could take, and just start to build that collaborative effort. And we have already started to do some of this recently with TPD. They've been letting us know when they're starting to see areas that are popping up, and we're able to go out and take a look and starting to get some engineering and safety treatments out there more rapidly than we normally are able to. We work in the mobility department, we work off of data that takes a long time to go through the process of being vetted from the state level. And so we're usually working off data that is at the most recent a year old, if not older. So it's great to have this this corresponding effort where we are looking at the trends over the longer view, but having this collaborative effort where we are able to work on things as they are popping up in real time. So that's an exciting effort that we want to implement. And then the second piece of this overall section is collecting, evaluating, and managing data to support our Vision Zero success. So we've talked about, Wendy was referencing some great examples of cities that are tracking the effectiveness of projects over time. So we could start to do some before and after crash analysis, looking at before we implement a project and then afterwards, see what changes we're seeing in crashes and speeds. We could also conduct a benchmarking and target setting exercise to see where we are currently in terms of various metrics, like how many miles of sidewalks are we building each year? How many miles of bike lanes? How many crosswalks are we implementing? Just kind of getting that baseline view and then setting some targets that we want to achieve year over year. Also conducting a program to count active transportation usage, so people walking and biking. It's a lot easier for us to know where the vehicles are going and where vehicle volumes are, you know, experiencing congestion, but it's less easy for us to know where people are walking and biking more frequently. So we want to build a program where we have the full picture of how people are getting around our city. And then the last piece of this is tracking and reporting out on activities throughout the year from projects, events, and other things that are included in this Vision Zero action plan. So potentially doing an annual report where we're tracking these metrics and reporting out on how we are achieving the actions that are outlined in this action plan. So that's the big picture of this element. I'll pause and see if there's any questions or comments on this one. Dick.
Sorry, me again, but this is actually kind of an area counting bikes and peds that we could do potentially as a region, similar to what the TPO does with vehicle counts on an annual basis, or what we did in the past as concurrency. Meaning, at least annually, let's map out what the demand is from a pedestrian and bicycle standpoint on the entire network with the same amount of rigor that we avail to vehicles of all classifications. Again, this could be an ongoing effort and we can scale it up slowly, but I really see regional partnerships feeding off of each other out here to the extent possible.
Yeah, it's a great point. Right, any other questions or comments? Gina agrees with Vic. We need that regional approach. I agree too. All right, we will move on to the last piece, which is implementation success. And Wendy's gonna take it home for us.
All right, so I'll be quick because I know we're running out of time, but I want to go back to Alana and what Vic said, getting that full picture. And to get that full picture and to really have success, you have to engage with subject matter experts, ranging from your engineers, your planners, your social workers, your public health professionals, your educators, your policymakers, the law enforcement, your bus riders, and the people that use these facilities every day. That data translates into really valuable solutions. And that's what this plan outlines. And the success also really requires building and sustaining leadership within the city of Tampa and champions like all of you. That systems-based approach, not spot treatments. You've got to look at the whole system. You've got to prioritize investments and track successes. You have to focus on that equity and engagement. And bottom line, lessons learned from other communities, do something, keep your momentum, don't get paralyzed, prioritize safety through funding decisions, partnerships, leadership, and move forward. So with that, we've augmented our strategies are augment funding for Vision Zero programs and projects. You need a sustainable funding source. You need to partner with public and private organizations to help augment that funding for Vision Zero. And keep looking for grants. There's a lot out there and they're in unexpected places. Public health is a great source for Vision Zero grants. And they've done a lot of messaging, they've done a lot of education. They've already paved the way for so much of this, so build on that. And then convene the reoccurring meetings of Vision Zero leadership, this task force, and the implementation team. These regular check-ins help keep this at the forefront. It helps spread that message. It helps identify even more champions, and it helps you focus on the data and the right solutions. So regular meetings are really important. And with that, it goes back to Alana for next steps. Mute, Alana. You're on mute.
Thank you.
Oh, thank goodness it was you this time and not me today.
So, any last questions or comments or feedback on this last piece before I wrap it all up? Okay. Well, one thing I do want to point out, so we do want to continue to convene this Vision Zero task force. So you all that have been involved and continue to bring in other implementing partners as we go along. So just be aware of that we'll be pulling you in regularly to update you and share successes, talk through what's working and what's not working. But like Wendy said, that's going to keep us accountable and making sure that things are moving forward. So this is not the last Vision Zero task force meeting, but we will be keeping you in the loop as we keep going. All right. So what's next? Just to give you a quick overview of the schedule as we wrap up the Vision Zero action plan. We are here today meeting with you all. We want to give you all the next month through the end of September to review what we've sent, share comments and feedbacks, any edits with us so we can continue to refine what we just presented today. We are planning to schedule some smaller group meetings with some of our key implementation partners too, to dig in a little more on some of the detailed action items that you may have been called out on. And then by early to mid October, have this final Vision Zero action plan wrapped up. So it's going to be a busy month for myself and Wendy wrapping up the action plan. We are, again, I mentioned earlier, but we do have the full graphically rich, pretty document that we plan to be sending out by early next week. So you guys will have that to review. I'll send that out along with the Word document version of this action plan too, which makes it easier to make any edits if you feel like you want to do that, and you're welcome to. So be on the lookout for that email early next week. And then by the end of October, we really want to have an open street celebration where we bring all of you Vision Zero task force members who've been along with us for the ride, invite you out and do a fun open air event celebrating that we've developed this action plan and really start to kick off the full implementation of it. So your role again, take a look at the Word document that was sent on this calendar invite, provide any comments. You can email them directly to me at this email, and I think you should probably have it if you've got the calendar invite. Help us promote the final Vision Zero action plan when it's done, and then again, of course, assisting us with implementation of this Vision Zero action plan. So just again want to thank everyone for their time and commitment to this effort and sticking with us and attending today to hear what we're presenting. Welcome all of your thoughts and excited to really get started with this effort. So any last questions or any comments, feedback? We'll open it up for a minute. Otherwise, you'll be getting some emails from me in the future.
Thank you for all of your active participation in making this plan what it is. can't do it without the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to highlight what everyone's saying in the chat. Alana, Wendy, and team, really, thank you so much. I would like to remind, particularly our mobility team, but all of our partners as well, this is an action plan. So if we're not doing, it really doesn't mean much. So this is a call to all of you and our partners. Let's start actually doing things. And our first step to that effect is going to be our street activation program, as Alana mentioned, and the other is our quick build program, where we're going to take small steps to improve safety and demonstrate its value, and then keep doing that over and over again.
Thank you, Vic. I see Jean popped on. Do you want to say anything before we
Yeah,
part?
I've been on. I just, I feel like minimizing the faces puts the attention on the speakers. But I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that participated in this meeting, all of the folks that are on our committee, as well as all the public engagement we've had from the community, from our neighborhood representatives and other agency representatives. This is really more than just the mobility department. It goes way beyond that. And much of Vision Zero is behavior change. So it takes every single person to buy into it, so to speak, and walk the walk, so to speak. And so we just want to thank everyone for whatever level of participation you've had or continue to have. It really makes a difference, and we just appreciate this. Just think of, even if that one person that's not seriously injured or not killed, everyone that's participating is making a difference and affecting something in a positive way of, avoiding something bad that could be happening. So just can't thank you all enough for all your time and your interest in this, and whatever actions you're taking to progress Vision Zero in our city. So just thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, Jean. All right, well, we can convene a little early. I'll give you 15 minutes of your day back. So again, we'll send some emails out next week and you'll be hearing from us soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alana.